If you've ever felt underestimated in your own marriage, if you've ever been dismissed, talked over, or treated like you were temporary in a life you helped build, this story is going to hit hard. Subscribe, like the video, and drop a comment as you listen. Because sometimes the loudest victory is the one delivered in complete silence. And trust me, you're going to want to stay until the end. She fired me 3 days after her father's funeral, sitting in his chair, wearing his watch, looking at me like I was already erased. Security was waiting outside the door before I even opened my mouth. Everyone thought I'd finally been put in my place. They were wrong. And what she didn't know was that her father had already chosen who would sit in that chair. The day Frank Miller was buried, the air still smelled like rain and fresh-cut grass. 200 people stood in black suits around polished wood and lowered voices. Executives, vendors, old factory workers with oil permanently etched into their hands. Frank wasn't just a businessman. He was the foundation, founder of Lawson Manufacturing, a $40 million operation that had started in a garage with one machine and an unreasonable amount of willpower. He built it over 30 years, from nothing. And for 7 of those years, I stood beside him and beside his daughter, my wife, Claire. At the funeral, she held my arm like it was expected of her. Her grip was steady, not tight, not weak, controlled. People whispered condolences to her. You'll do great things. He prepared you. You're the future. No one looked at me when they said it. That should have been my first clue. 3 days after the funeral, I received an email from Claire Miller, CEO. That word hit harder than the summons. The board had moved fast. Bloodline over backbone. Subject, mandatory meeting. Bring your access card and company laptop. The message was short, cold. No sofnies. No can we talk. I arrived at 1:55, 5 minutes early. The office had already changed. Frank's photo, the one of him and his first employee smiling like they'd just stolen fire, was gone. The desk had been rearranged. There was a new assistant who didn't make eye contact. I waited 20 minutes past my scheduled time. No apology. Just the quiet hum of shifting power. When the door finally opened, I stepped inside. Claire didn't stand. She didn't smile. She was sitting in her father's chair, wearing his watch. Her fingers rested on the armrest like she was testing ownership. Have a seat, she said without looking up. You said. The chair felt smaller than I remembered. She closed her laptop slowly, deliberately. I'm restructuring, she said. No build-up. No sofnies. Your role is being eliminated effective immediately. For half a second, I thought it was grief talking. Stress. Claire and I had been married 8 years. From the outside, we were the kind of couple that looked inevitable. Power pair. She handled contracts and clients, brilliant in rooms filled with men who underestimated her. She knew how to smile, just long enough to make someone lean forward and then close the deal before they realized what happened. I handled the floor, production schedules, supply chain, staffing, crisis control, the kind of work that didn't show up in glossy magazines but kept the lights on. Frank used to tell me, titles impress people. Systems keep them fed. Every Tuesday, he and I had lunch at the same diner. Same booth. No assistants. No interruptions. He'd ask questions and wait. Actually wait. Claire hated those lunches. She said it looked like favoritism. I said it was mentorship. She said, my father respects strength. I said, he respects consistency. That argument never really ended. It just paused. Over the years, something subtle crept into our marriage. Not shouting, not dramatic fights, just erosion. She started introducing me as head of production, not my husband. When clients complimented the company's growth, she'd say, Dad and I have worked hard. I told myself it was semantics. You don't torch a marriage over phrasing. But words matter, and so does tone. Shock does strange things to people, but her face didn't tremble. It hardened. You'll receive 2 weeks severance, she added. That's generous given your performance issues. Performance issues. After 7 years of record output, after surviving supply chain collapses, after Frank trusted me with decisions he never handed to anyone else, I felt something strange then. Not rage, not panic, A hollowing, like someone had opened a window inside my chest and let all the air rush out. "I'm not signing this," I said calmly. She pressed a button on her desk. Security entered before I could blink. They were already waiting. That told me everything. This wasn't emotional. It was planned. As they escorted me past the people I'd worked beside for years, eyes down, jaws tight, I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I didn't defend myself. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is say nothing at all. It was still in my filing cabinet, bottom drawer, behind tax returns and insurance documents. My name written across the front in Frank's blocky handwriting. I held it for a long time before opening it, because opening it meant admitting this wasn't temporary. This was war. Inside was a letter and documents. Lots of them. The letter began simply, "Nathan, if you're reading this, I'm either gone or something's gone terribly wrong. Probably both." My hand trembled slightly as I continued. "You are a good man. More importantly, you are a steady one. Stability builds companies. Impulse destroys them." He wrote about Claire. Not cruelly, but honestly. He said she craved visibility, speed, applause. He feared she would mistake control for leadership. Then came the line that changed everything. 5 years ago, I transferred majority shares of Lawson Manufacturing into a holding company under your name, Harrison Strategic Holdings. I blinked. Read it again. 65% ownership. Structured legally. Documented. Untouchable. He had made me majority shareholder. Claire had no idea. I met with Frank's attorney, Jacob Clean, the next morning. "It's airtight," he confirmed. "You are the majority shareholder of Lawson Manufacturing." He leaned back. "You can remove her immediately." I thought about it. About humiliation. About revenge. About storming into that office and watching her expression crack. But Frank never rushed. So I waited. And Claire made mistakes. Big ones. She approved massive renovations to the executive floor. Fired experienced department heads. Entered talks to sell the automotive division, the division that kept the company afloat, to Summit Industries. For a personal fee, $2 million. The betrayal wasn't just corporate. It was intimate, because this wasn't just a company. It was her father's life, and she was carving it up for applause, not a tea home. She kept escalating. "You were useful," she said one night, standing in the kitchen like she was delivering a quarterly report. "Dad kept you around because you were efficient." That's it. Efficient. Not husband. Not partner. Useful. "I'm the future of that company," she continued. "And you're in the way." I studied her face. There was grief there, buried under entitlement. She wasn't just firing me. She was proving something. To the board. To the employees. To a ghost she was still trying to impress. "Sign the separation papers," she said. "Or what?" I asked. "I'll make your life very difficult." I almost smiled. She already had. She just didn't know how temporary that difficulty was about to be. Monday morning, 8:55 a.m. Board members filed into the conference room. Claire walked in last. Confident. Composed. Then she saw me. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. Jacob stood calmly. "As majority shareholder, Mr. Harrison called this meeting." She laughed. "He doesn't work here. He owns 65%, Jacob replied. The room went silent. Papers rustled. Eyes widened. Gerald Thompson, Frank's first partner, adjusted his glasses and read through the documents carefully. "These are legitimate," he said. Claire's face drained of color. "You manipulated him," she whispered to me. I shook my head slightly. "I found out after you fired me." That sentence hit harder than any insult. Jacob slid forward the expense reports, the termination records, the proposed sale to Summit Industries, with her personal compensation highlighted. "Is this accurate?" Gerald asked. She opened her mouth, closed it. I stood slowly. A week ago, I was escorted out of this building like I didn't matter. Today, I'm restructuring. Effective immediately, Claire Miller is removed as CEO. Security entered. The same guards. Recognition flickered across their faces. This time, they stood beside me. "Mrs. Miller," one said gently, "please come with us." She looked around the table, searching. No one moved. As the door closed behind her, the room exhaled. Frank knew exactly what he was doing. That afternoon, I walked into Frank's old office. The abstract painting was gone. The original photo was back. Frank and his first employee, smiling, building. I sat in his chair, not because it was powerful, but because it was steady. The divorce followed quietly. No screaming matches, no public spectacle, just paperwork. 3 months later, the company was thriving again. Morale restored. Waste cut. System stabilized. But here's what stayed with me. It wasn't the boardroom silence. It wasn't the look on her face. It was the realization that in our marriage, she never saw me as permanent. And that hurt more than losing the job ever did. Because power struggles in marriage aren't about titles. They're about respect, validation, being seen. Claire believed leadership meant dominance. Frank believed it meant stewardship. And I learned that love without respect erodes. Silently. If you're in a marriage where you feel underestimated, don't confuse silence with surrender. Sometimes the quietest person in a room is the one holding the truth. Sometimes restraint is strength. And sometimes justice doesn't need a shout. It just needs to arrive. If this story hit close to home, hit that like button. Subscribe for more emotionally charged husband-wife debates and real relationship stories. And tell me in the comments, was I right to wait? Or should I have confronted her the moment she fired me? I'll see you in the next one. Because trust me, silence has stories.